major story we're following for you. The memo of understanding outlining a U.S.-Iran agreement has been signed electronically by both sides. That's according to U.S. officials. Take a look at this. Boats were seen at sea around the Strait of Hormuz early this morning. Both Iran and the U.S. say ships have started moving through that vital oil route again. And at the G7 summit earlier, President Trump addressed the new agreement with Iran, and he denied the country will be receiving any funds from the U.S.
We have a deal that's a fair deal. It's a good deal. We are not investing any money in Iran, by the way. That rumor got out there yesterday. It was ridiculous. We have the right to go in someday and do, if I want to do something, or if somebody wants to do something, but we are not investing any money. We have no obligation to invest any money in Iran.
So how might this affect your local gas pump? Well, take a look. According to AAA, the national average price for a regular gallon of gas is now $4.04. That's nearly 50 cents less than a month ago and down from about 2 cents from yesterday. But we're all still paying $1 more per gallon than before the war with Iran began. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tyab joins us from Tel Aviv for more of his reporting on all of this. Imtiaz, good morning. You know, one issue that we had discussed yesterday hanging over this tentative Iran agreement is Israel's conflict with Hezbollah, something President Trump did weigh in on at the G7 summit. Let's just play that for our viewers.
No, I'm not happy with the way Israel has handled themselves with Lebanon and with Hezbollah. They should have been able to do the job faster. It just goes on forever. And when that happens, it throws a negative light on the big deal, and that's the deal with Iran.
What does that tell us about the U.S.-Israeli relationship and as we spoke about yesterday, how its conflict with Hezbollah could impact this overall deal?
Well, look, the real concern is that conflict with Hezbollah. But to answer your question about the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, we've seen this before. Prime Minister Netanyahu at odds with an American president. You'll remember Barack Obama and him famously did not have a very good relationship. What President Trump is saying is definitely far more extreme, for lack of a better phrase, than we've ever heard any American president describe Mr. Netanyahu or the U.S.'s relationship with Israel. Still, I would argue on every other level, the relationship between these two countries is as close as ever. Still, the issue of Lebanon, the issue of Hezbollah is really crucial to this memorandum of understanding, tentative memorandum of understanding, and whether or not it's going to hold. We also heard the president saying that he thought the leader of neighboring Syria, Ahmed al-Sharaa, who you'll remember was once on a terrorist most wanted list, would perhaps be better in dealing with Hezbollah. So that really just underscores the concern that the president appears to have when it comes to Israel's handling of Lebanon and indeed some of the threats to this conflict. That said, I would say that this relationship between the U.S. and Israel is certainly very strong, but this is a very sore point for them. Errol.
And Imtiaz, what about the Strait? One component of this tentative agreement is the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. And speaking yesterday, the president said it would be reopened by Friday, but there are reports that there's some movement now. And the question is, will we see a return to pre-war levels of transit? So what's happening in the Strait now?
Well, the president, of course, very confident that not only will the strait be open, but the gas, in his words, will start to flow. It's far more complicated than that, Errol. The Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, was once, before the war, one of the busiest waterways where we would see on a historic average around 138 vessels pass through every single day. That, of course, has ground to a halt for nearly 4 months. You'll remember we were in the Strait of Hormuz around a month ago, and we could see vessel after vessel after vessel just anchored there. And you have to imagine these are highly technical vessels, so many of them need a lot of servicing. The water is incredibly warm, which means a lot of this sort of sea crust has formed along them, which means many of these vessels will have to go back to their bases and receive a lot of maintenance repair. And that's really going to slow things down. Having said that, it is true some vessels have passed through. Our colleagues at CBS confirmed have found at least 7 vessels have passed through. So there is some movement. But to answer your question, to get us back to where we were historically before the war, that could take many months. Errol.
All right, Imtiaz Tyab in Tel Aviv. Imtiaz, thank you. We jump now to CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. She joins us on the phone from Geneva. Good morning, Olivia. Help us understand what more we're learning about this memo, including the caveats around Iran and Israel.
Hey, good morning, Errol. It's good to be with you. Yeah, we are learning just more details about this MOU, mostly the size of it. The vice president yesterday let us know via an interview on CNN that it's only a page and a half long. So there's not very much detail that's actually in the MOU. It's really just a broad document that says the strait will be reopened, that there will be a ceasefire in place, and 60 days of technical talks are going to start once the MOU is signed in person. They are still on track for a Friday signing here in Switzerland, and that will be with the vice president and the Iranian delegation. So they are on track for that at this moment, but there are tons of outstanding questions. Mostly what we're hearing now from sources and from people in the region are questions about the ballistic missile campaign that Iran has. I mean, they have missile lengths that go far into Europe. They can reach Diego Garcia, which is a U.S.-UK base in the Indian Ocean. They have range. So the question being, why is that not part of this MOU understanding? The vice president has said that's part of the negotiations as far as just telling Iran that they can't be a state sponsor of terror in the region, but still a lot of technicalities that are going to have to be talked out in the next phase of these discussions.
And Olivia, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with G7 leaders today. Might he get some time with President Trump and help us understand what else is happening there here on day 2?
Yeah, so they did meet very briefly this morning. They are expected to have a larger meeting this afternoon here at the G7. President Trump said they spoke very briefly. He also said that, it's time for Russia to make a deal. I found that notable, that he said specifically Russia needs to make a deal. And he pointed out that they've been losing just tens of thousands of soldiers every month to that really grinding front line in Ukraine. So the president is going to speak with Zelensky later on. They are going to have a luncheon of Middle Eastern leaders who are also here. The Emir of Qatar is here, the leader of the UAE as well, to meet with President Trump. There's also going to be a luncheon with some developing nations, discussions with them about how to improve relations and economic ties. And then tonight will be a largely cultural celebratory dinner that they are expected to have. So with all of that said, this is day 2 of the G7. So far, nothing too out of the weeds yet that we've seen, but they are expected to just have more meetings today. We'll see if there's any big announcements as far as economic announcements, trade announcements that could come as a result.
All right, Olivia Rinaldi on the phone with us from Geneva. Olivia, thank you.